As a class is studying, a boy remarks that this class sucks and that he lives in an ordinary world and in an ordinary school. The teacher asks who wants to come up and prove this law, so the boy, John, raises his hand and asks if he can go to the bathroom. Annoyed, the teacher tells him to go ahead. A guy named Martin mockingly tells him to not die on his way there, but the teacher throws a chalk at him, causing his nose to bleed, and suggests that he might like to volunteer. As John is walking through the hallway, he mutters that his life is overall pretty ordinary in size because of how exhausting long blocks are. He suddenly hears some rumbling and a boy gets thrown on a classroom in front of him. Stunned, John realizes he could have died there and slowly asks the boy if he's alright, but he just angrily gets up and curses the person he's fighting, Ison. However, Ison annoyingly calls him an idiot since he lent his pen to him for one class and he went and broke it. The boy argues that he didn't have to hit him so hard since it really hurt a lot. He charges up a beam, seeing which John hurriedly tells himself to run and gets away, just as the guy fires the beam, as it's revealed that he wasn't born with an ability of his own because he's the loser protagonist. John sees a student being bullied and the bully orders the kid to do that thing again. However, the boy declines and tells him to leave him again, so he gets punched in the face. The bully angrily orders him to not talk back to him and to do what he says or he'll beat the crap out of him. He's about to punch the kid again, but John pushes him away and rolls up his sleeves. He tells the bully to keep his hands to himself, seeing which the bully smilingly mutters that he knows who this and recognizes him as John, the school cripple. He acknowledges that it's pretty ballsy that he's trying to play hero, but says he really should know his place as he rushes forward to punch him. However, John swiftly deflects his attack and punches him on the face. He warns the bully to back off, but he angrily declares that he'll pay for this. The bully activates his ability, seeing which John worryingly wonders what the hell he's supposed to do against that. The bully asks John if he hasn't learned that the world doesn't have sympathy for weaklings like him, so he should just lay low and mind his own business or keep getting in the way of others and get killed. John wonders if that was a threat before the bully suddenly appears behind him and stabs through his arm. John is shocked by how fast he is and remarks that his skin just now was rock solid. He sees that this allows the bully to get increased speed and durability and realizes he has a flashy power-up, but his ability is just a form of self-enhancement. The bully says that's only a taste of what he can do and says that if John begs him, he'll let him leave in one piece. John annoyingly remarks that his ability isn't even that good, he's just gloating because he found someone weaker than him. He slowly smiles and bursts out in laughter. Annoyed, the bully asks what the hell he's laughing at, so John says he's obviously laughing at him and declares that telling him to beg is a pretty big demand since usually, when someone talks like that, they can back it up. As the bully glares at him, John decides to give him some examples and explains that they have Remy, who can burn him to a crisp, like an Ison, who are currently blowing up Wallach Hall, and obviously, Serafina, who is pretty much a god. He tells the bully it's his turn now and asks what he can do: move a little faster, hit a little harder. He says that doesn't seem too threatening and bets that he can beat him despite not having an ability. The bully angrily tells him to shut the hell up and rushes towards him, but John quickly ducks and grabs him before smashing him through the window and throwing him out. Shocked, he realizes that actually worked but sees that his arm seems to be broken again. Meanwhile, a girl is sitting on the rooftop alone, using her phone. At the infirmary, the doctor sees that John is back again with a broken arm and angrily questions how many times he has to tell him to watch himself before asking if he really wants to die. John hurriedly asks him to calm down and apologizes. The doctor hands him a concoction and tells him to drink it so that his arm can heal in 3 hours. John thanks him as he takes a sip, so the doctor wearily mutters that he's going to lose his job because of him one day, and it's lucky that he ran into Stoneboy today, since even he wouldn't be able to do much to save John if he had pissed off any of the higher year students. John says he already knows that and gets up, telling him to not worry because he'll be more careful. The doctor asks where he thinks he's going and grabs him by the shoulder, declaring that it was a nice try, but he already knows the drill. He's not going anywhere until he's healed, so he'll notify John's teachers that he won't be attending classes for the remainder of the day. As the girl is sitting on the rooftop, she receives a message from someone begging her to save them, so she asks where they are and smiles. As the doctor is working, the girl enters, so he annoyingly sees that it's the other one. The girl, Sarah, shows John the phone and asks what all this is about. He says he's dying of boredom and the doc won't let him leave for another 3 hours because he'll get his butt kicked again. Sarah chuckles and says she's got to head back to class, but she'll remember to not wait for him when school ends. John stops her and asks who she's kidding when everyone knows she never goes to class. He asks her to help out a friend and keep him company, so she sighs. A while later, Sarah asks John why he has such a creepy look on his face, so he says he's glad she asked and shows her that he got the high score in Slappy Pig. He declares that it looks like there's a new champion in town, so she acknowledges that he's pretty good, but says he's still not good enough and shows him that her score is 212. Shocked, John says that doesn't count because she cheated, so she asks if he's saying that because of her ability and mutters that it's not her fault that he doesn't have one. They suddenly hear rumbling above them and John wonders what that was. The doctor angrily gets up and tells the person to just wait till he gets his hands on them. As his hand is on the doorknob, he suddenly turns around to glare at John and declares that he will stay here until he's back before questioning if that is clear to him. John tells him to not worry about him because he has Sarah to keep him company. The doctor slams the door and leaves, after which John turns to Sarah and says they should get out of here, so she smiles and agrees. As the bully gets up from the ground, he angrily declares that he will destroy that no-good cripple the next time he sees him. He suddenly spots John leaving the building and rushes towards him. He activates his ability and grabs John by the collar before declaring that he has a bone to pick with him. John asks if this is about earlier and says he thought they were over that already, so they should just forget about it and make up with each other. The bully reminds John that he threw him out of the window, so John reminds him that he broke his arm, which is why they can just call it even. The bully angrily tells him to shut his filthy mouth and punches, so John hurriedly shields himself, but the bully's punch stops just short of John's arm as he sees Sarah standing behind him. Sarah glares at him and tells him to stand down, but he nervously smiles and asks if he's supposed to be scared. He admits he's heard rumors about her, but questions how strong she can really be if she hangs around this weakling all day long. He suggests that she should leave, but she suddenly smashes him into the wall. As the bully is lying on the ground, he wearily questions what the hell that was about when she didn't even move. Sarah tells him to not waste her time, but he inwardly tells her to not speak down to him. He punches her and tells her to go to hell, but she swiftly dodges and knocks him unconscious. As John is silently watching, she asks where he wanted to go, so he suggests having a drink. She agrees but says he'll pay, so the doctor drags two kids back with him as they realize they're screwed. In the infirmary, he furiously asks how they dared to cause so much ruckus when classes are still going and declares that he's sending them both straight to Keen after this. Blake explains that he was just minding his own business, studying then he came over and punched him out of nowhere. Blake points out that that wouldn't have happened if he hadn't broken his pen, so Ison annoyingly says it was the most useless part of the pen, but Blake says he doesn't care and tells him to not break his stuff. The doctor orders them both to shut up and bashes their heads together, declaring that it doesn't matter who started the fight because he just wants them both to understand that their actions have consequences. The bully from before desperately crawls inside as the doctor sees that John ran away. At the boba shop, Sarah asks John if he really threw the bully out of a window of all the things he could have done, so he's about to say he didn't really have a choice, but she starts snickering, so he annoyingly says it's not funny, because he could have gotten killed. Sarah mutters that he always says that, yet here he is again, in one piece. John says she's missing the point, but she says it has to be at least a little exciting, living on the edge like that. John stays silent for a moment before saying it's nothing like that because he really just wants a moment of peace right now. Every little conflict always turns into a full-on brawl, and he can't do anything without fearing for his life. He asks why the world has to be so violent and if there's anything wrong with talking things over with another, so Sarah says that's because it's a waste of time. There's no need to argue with a weakling to prove a point. John asks if that's because she can just overpower them and reminds her that the stronger person isn't always right and declares that it's pathetic that people have to use force to back up their claim. Sarah asks what he's implying, so he says he wasn't targeting her specifically, just higher tiers in general, so Sarah decides to just ignore him. John remarks that Sarah was born strong, so she doesn't understand what people like him have to go through every day. On the TV near them, a reporter states that the villain, Ember, has been leaving a trail of bodies and investigators have discovered the body of the well-known vigilant, Ecstatic. The victim's body was covered in second-degree burns and multiple stab wounds, and like all other Ember victims, a very prominent brand of its logo marked the corpse. John hears someone exclaiming that Loven is the next town over, so Ember might be heading here. Sarah sees that yet another self-proclaimed superhero falls victim to the consequences of everyday society and says people need to learn to mind their own business, especially if they don't have the strength to back it up. John argues that he was trying to keep them safe, so she asks if he feels safer now that he's dead. In a flashback, the teacher tells everyone that she knows it's a bit late in the year, but they have a new student joining them today and asks the student to introduce themselves. John greets them and says he's looking forward to meeting them all and hopes they can get along. He had worked very hard to get into this school, many sleepless nights and countless hours of studying, so with such difficult entrance exams that he expected academics to be the main focus at Wellston, he expected things to be different. John gets ready for maths class before a girl greets him and introduces herself as Elaine. She asks how his first day has been going so far, so he admits it's not bad. She cheerily says she's glad to hear that and asks which school he transferred from. John reveals that he was actually homeschooled before this, so she says they've never had one of these